Welcome to News with a View, hosted by me, John A. Costa, and a very sad day today. Yesterday, today, the violence from the left is continuing. This is going to be episode 129. Today is September 11th, 2025, 24 years ago. We are in memoriam for the victims of 9/11, the families that survived, and those people touched by 9/11. And then yesterday, the assassination of Charles Kirk, a conservative speaker, founder of Turning Point USA. My main topic today will be to speak of how the Democrats have in the last few months and over the past years has incited their base to become more violent. We've seen it with Acorn, Black Lives Matter, so many groups aligned to the left Democrats that I said all this would be exposed, and it is being exposed, but not by us, but by the Democrats themselves. The murder of Charles Kirk. And then you had MSNBC, Matthew Dowd, trying to excuse it by saying, oh, he brought this on himself. So MSNBC fired him, of course, as they should. They should fire the whole group and just start over. And you have shows like The Talk and The View that have always been radical, and got to get tough. Just last week you had Tim Walz saying how he had hoped to wake up to find that Trump was dead, and laughing about it to a crowd at a picnic, saying, we'll have that one day, that will be news, that will be news. And weeks before that, Tim Walz saying we have to activate our memberships to be more tough, to be more confrontational, to take on the Republicans, to bully them. And Tim Walz, of course, had two political murders. They tried to blame that on, MAGA people, and then it got shoved on to them that this guy was a Democratic political appointee who decided he had a beef against these two politicians and shot them. Excuse me. And then, of course, in Tim Walz's state, he pulled back school safety on churches, and then they had a mass shooting resulting in 18 people being injured and 2 children being murdered. And you have the shootings, deaths every weekend in Chicago, Democratic stronghold. And they blame Republicans for that. And the Republicans are to blame, not the people of Chicago who are committing the crimes. They can't help themselves. They just can't help themselves. That's what they're trying to say to people, is that those poor people just can't help themselves. They have to commit crime. Crime is their only avenue. And it's really not their fault. You had Van Jones from CNN going on the other day that the person who murdered the refugee from the Ukraine on the train, well, that wasn't his fault, because when people hurt, they hurt people. And this is we are supposed to get used to the crime. That's what they're saying. Hey, just get used to it. It happens every day. Schumer. We are sending people to Republican districts to make them fully aware and have them face the consequences for their actions. What does that mean? What consequences? What consequences, Senator Schumer? That you send paid people to disrupt Republican meetings and town hall meetings, and when you say consequences, is what happened to Charlie Kirk a consequence for him being a conservative? Have you made Charlie Kirk responsible? Do you understand what you guys are saying? Just like Dodd. He brought this on himself. Maybe it was one of his people in the crowd shooting in the air to celebrate, and he got shot. This is the insanity of the left. And you have a core group of maniacs. You have a core group of anarchists being used by the Democrats to carry out many of these functions. From 2018, you had Representative Waters telling her constituents and the Democrats, get in the faces of every Trump official, every Trump person, every supporter of Trump. You had the Democrats saying, oh, the city's being taken over and people being shot and murdered. No. No, that's the summer of love. I mean, the acceptability of violence by the left is once again the best advertising on why, if you're a normal thinking Democratic voter, that either you don't vote in 2026, you should not give a dime to any of the campaigns. And you could send a message back by electing Republicans. There's already many Democrats who are saying we're way over the limit, way over what is tolerable, and I won't be able to go back to my districts and explain myself. You have Crockett in Texas saying the police aren't there to prevent crimes. They only should come after the crime. It is these type of just lunacy that's being allowed to happen in the Democratic Party. And that's happening because they have no course. They have nothing. They know that President Trump was voted in. They know that his mandate from his voters is to plug up the border, deport, clean up our streets, and work on the economy. And as I said, you can't have you can't have a job if you're dead. You can't buy things if you're dead. And we're seeing illegals who are committing murders. And you had Democrats saying, well, murders happen every day. Most murders are done by American citizens. That's a true statement. But if those illegals weren't here, would the murders that they did, would that happen? The rapes, the abuses, the robberies, would they have happened? The logic of the left and their hatred, absolute hatred of the Republicans, has almost destroyed America. Thankfully, we have people in office now that is reshaping that. And yes, they are far to the right. And why is that? That's the reaction of when you've gone so far to the left. This is what happens. And you allowed it. The Democrats put this all in motion. You think that this will stop people from exercising their right to have an opinion, and that opinion can be being gay is wrong. Being transgender goes against science. Being gay goes against nature. You can say those things. But do you know that the Democrats, and in lots of instances saying that, you could be arrested as hate speech. But you could call President Trump a rapist. He's never charged with being a rapist. You could sit there and call him Orange Man. and make fun of his color, and nothing happens to you. The left will find themselves so far out that they think they're irrelevant now. They'll even be more irrelevant after 2026, which will make them more violent. Because when Democrats don't get their way, they riot. And I guarantee you we're going to see riots. Guarantee it. And I guarantee you you're going to see bloodshed. It's going to happen. It won't be a civil war. It won't be anything like that. But they'll bust these people into the wrong area. And when they start ripping down downtown businesses that they don't even live in, and they think they're going to go back to their buses and go to the next town or village to do that too, they're going to find themselves in not a good spot. This will happen. This will happen. The rhetoric of the left that has now turned from rhetoric to action and we have a police in most major blue cities that are stopped from enforcing the law. And instead they are forced to enforce the political whim of those in power instead of the laws of the people. And that is going to change. That is going to change. Chicago, you're in for a beatdown. Baltimore, you're next, followed by Philly. East St. Louis, he'll leave certain cities as examples. Good examples and bad examples. If those mayors and governors decide to get tough and go, we're going to go into, crime, and we're going to do this and we'll do that, Trump will say, that's good, a little late, but at least you came to the party. And those that don't, he'll let those places get worse until people stand on the street and say, we want, we need, we demand protection. And then Trump will roll in there. And this isn't Trump trying to get people used to military presence. This is Trump saying, I want my people to be able to walk down the streets. I want my people to be protected. I want my children's children to be safe. Can you always be safe? No. No. Bad things happen. But we also have to say the reality is we can't have someone on death row for 42 years. If you're caught using a gun in a capital crime, you get your trial, you get everything. And if you're caught with that gun and you're like, oh, hello, oh, all right, I'll put the gun down, you'll have your trial. You can plea, you can make your defense. And if you're found guilty, you can appeal it. That appeal must be done within 30 days. And if you win the appeal, it goes whatever direction it needs to go. If you lose the appeal, the next day. And none of this 10 years, 20 years, 30 years on death row, where you get to go, well, see, I'm a changed person. Yeah. And you might very well be. But you know who's not a changed person? The person you killed. The person you murdered. See, they're still dead. And I do believe that there are incidences where there's mitigating circumstances, where life in prison without ever getting parole could be fair. But 90% of it, no, it's murder. I shot them for drugs. I shot them for their money. I was robbing them. And whether or not your daddy beat you or your mommy neglected you, inconsequential. Inconsequential. 9/11, having memorials is fine. I have no problem with that. I don't want to hear the same rehash of building number 7 or this was a conspiracy. I don't want to hear it anymore. It was an inside job. Don't want to hear it anymore. Done. Done. We'll never learn the truth. Done. Learning the truth, learning any of that is not going to bring back all those people. So let's do a memorial for them. And I think that if there was inside track information, if it was done on purpose by the Bush administration, Obama would have pushed it out, Biden would have pushed it out, Trump would have pushed it out. Rudy Giuliani would have found a way to make it come out. So, unless, you want to go deeper into the conspiracy and go, they couldn't because their lives were threatened. So you're going to hear that. But I don't want to hear it anymore. I don't want to hear these mouthpieces that get their one day a year to peddle their garbage. I don't want that. I'm tired of the lunacy of the Democrats. It isn't justice they're looking for. They want you to accept crime as normal. They want you to accept gay as normal. They want you to accept transgender as normal. And they want that to be woven into our lives. Well, Democrats, I do not have to indulge your freaking fantasies. Your fantasies are your fantasies. They do not and will not impact my real life. You want to dress as a girl? I'll laugh at you. You want to dress as a girl in your own home? Have at it. But do not tell me you're normal. You might be able to do normal functions. That doesn't make you normal. Being gay, you could be the best athlete, you could be the best everything, you could be the best at what you're doing. Being gay is not normal. Goes against nature, goes against the science of reproduction, of our ability to procreate. Which is the underlying urges that we have. And our underlying urges is meant to go for the opposite sex. That's the only way you could do it. Until science intervened. So, being gay is not normal. Being transgender is not normal. Put any label you want on yourself. I don't have to subscribe to it. And I don't have to call it normal, nor do I have to accept you other than treat you as a human being. But I shouldn't be forced to hire you. I shouldn't be forced that my children are raised and you're giving them your value system. Or the school skewing my values and putting their values in their place. No. We teach our children at home values. Or the lack of them. Still a parent's choice. The school shouldn't be doing that. You know, we're going to celebrate Rainbow Day. But we're not going to celebrate the founding of our country. We're not going to do that. Oh yeah, like you have Senator Tim Kaine out of Virginia. I have a problem with the Bill of Rights. Really? What? That? The blacks have rights that go beyond the laws of man? Is that what you have a problem with, Tim? All this is hate speech by the left. You can give your opinion, and that wasn't an opinion, Tim. You came out at a hearing and stated it. That is your belief. And as that is your belief, that impacts how you make political decisions. And it's obvious you can't separate your biases against the law. So you are a problem, sir. And you should be dealt with in the voting booth. See, that's where I say, if you want to get radical, do it in the voting booth. And Democrats, you can go in there, no one knows you're voting Republican. No one's knowing that. And you could come back out of there and go, yeah, lousy Republicans, yeah, because if you said, hey, I think Trump has a good idea here, oh my God, you're the worst human being ever. The mayor of Washington said, well, okay, listen, I'm not happy that we have troops here. And I'm not happy about, it just being forced on us. But I will say that crime rate is down. And that's good for the people. You have these media people that complain about, about crime on X. And then when they talk or write a story for MSNBC, they jump all over Trump. Yet when you pull out their X things, and they go, I've been robbed 12 times. 2 bicycles, cars, Vespas, house broken into, assaulted on the streets. And they want to blame Republicans. This is the problem. And this is the problem of the media. And when you have such an imbalance like that, if you got an imbalance this way, you're going to have an imbalance that way because it's out of alignment. And yes, you will have your Newsmax, your Fox, who are trying to counter the Beast and Yahoo News and MSNBC and CNN. So you will have polar opposites. Instead of a nice zone where it's not too hot, not too cold. The Democrats are responsible for the violence. And you can do January 6th, man. They tried to take over. They tried to take over the country. They tried. They were looking for the vice president, who had Secret Service protection. Nothing would have happened. There were no guns in the Capitol building. The Viking stole Pelosi's laptop or whatever, some furniture. They accused the grandmother of carrying out like a 400-pound desk. I mean, it was just ridiculous. And then handing out ridiculous sentences. And yes, they did trespass. But if you looked at those videos, the police were holding doors open for them and telling them which way to go. And they said, well, we were doing that to try to rein them in and follow them. Well, you let them in. The only insurrection that ever took place that no guns were used, the only people that got murdered were the protesters. A policeman died, 3 months later, and they said, well, that was because of what happened there. No, he had a heart attack. He had 10 years of coronary artery disease, and he was obese. So, and that's what they wanted you to believe, and that's what they did, and that's why Trump said enough with this, pardon them all. Even the violent ones. But if you looked at the Summer of Love, if you looked at all the riots around the country, I still, what an injustice they did with Floyd, George Floyd. He was a guy, he should have never been on the street. He still should have been in jail 10 more years. And gives the cops a hard time, and they wrestle him to the ground, and he dies. He died because of the drugs that were in his body. And when you produce adrenaline, when you ramp yourself up, those other drugs get ramped up too. And it's too much for your system. And where it would be a normal guy that they were doing that to, put your hands and they're wrestling, they're holding him down, he'd get up and that would be it. But when they're wrestling with these people and trying to detain them, they don't know that an hour before they took, all these drugs. They don't know that. They have no idea. They're just trying to subdue this guy so he doesn't hurt himself or hurt them. The biggest farce. The biggest farce. The left, you thought 2026 was going to be a cakewalk for you. Oh, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. And Trump hasn't even taken out the big guns yet. And he has you guys so boxed in, you can't even figure a way out yet, except violence. You can't figure a way out. You think Epstein, all the stuff we already know, you think that's going to be your meal ticket to a win? Out of your minds. You have nothing. It's almost October, and I said by October it is too late. This incident, this murder that just took place, that's the Alamo. Trump being shot in Pennsylvania. Won him the election. He would have won anyway, but that sealed the deal. The left didn't want him, so they're going to take him out. Charlie Kirk was dangerous to the left because he rallied people to go, stop. I want you to think about what the left just said and what they want you to do and want you to believe in. And so they murdered him. "31 years old. Yeah, well, and we've seen this before in the past. Martin Luther King. Got too powerful. Governor Walz. So we've seen this before. And we know what we're looking at. And 2026 is right around the corner. And you guys are going to lose more House seats, Senate seats. You're going to see a major restructuring. And no one is going to believe the Democrats anymore. All we remember are the murders, the attempted assassination, the Schumers saying violence is the answer. You have Walz, who says that you have to get tough, and you know he dreams of waking up to finding on the doom list Trump's name. Right? This is what we're talking about. You have an MSNBC reporter who took glee and delight in this murder. Said, well, he had it coming to him. He only had himself to blame. And trying to make it normal. It's over, kids. Now the adults are taking over. And you're going to get a spanking for being naughty. All right. That's 45 minutes. As always, give to a charity. Give to a food bank. And in light of the circumstances that have happened in today and 24 years ago, say a prayer for all the people who die of violence. Pray that the person who shot Charlie Kirk is apprehended. And with that, I'm going to just fade to black. I'm going to edit this up a little while and get this out the door. This is a live feed right now going out, and that will go up quickly. All right. And with that, I'm going to say I'm fading to black.